A heartbeat fades under a deep voice, calm, precise, and heavy with authority. Most people live under the illusion that peace is the default state of existence. They believe conflict is the exception, something to be avoided, feared, or condemned. But peace is not the natural order. War is not the kind fought with armies, but the one that happens in silence. Inside minds, between egos, beneath smiles. Every conversation is a negotiation of dominance. Every glance, every word, every silence, a weapon or a shield. You've been at war your entire life, even when you thought you were safe. The truth is simple. Human beings do not crave love. They crave control. To be loved is to be accepted. To have control is to be worshipped. Power is the only real language. And most will sell their peace, their morality, their sanity, just to feel its warmth for a moment. You can pretend you want harmony. You can hide behind kindness and pretend you're above it. But when your back hits the wall, when your pride is on the edge, you will remember what you truly are, a strategist in disguise. The weak call it manipulation. The strong call it survival. And those who master it don't fight wars anymore. They design them. You were born powerless, dependent, helpless. And from that moment, your mind began its first war, a hunger not for food, but for control. That hunger is ancient. It hides behind every smile, every polite gesture, every act of goodness you've ever performed. Because even kindness is a strategy. You help, so you're needed. You obey, so you're accepted. You conform, so you survive. But make no mistake, beneath that obedience, something darker grows. Something patient, something to watch. Power begins as an ache, the silent humiliation of being told what to do, of knowing your worth and being unable to prove it. That's the first spark, the birth of the strategist. You remember the faces of those who ruled you, parents, teachers, bosses, lovers. You remember the tone they used, that quiet confidence that said, "I decide." And a part of you swore, "One day, I'll never feel that small again." That is how all empires begin, not in ambition, but in resentment. The will to control is born from the pain of being controlled. And once you taste power, even for a moment, you will never settle for equality again. The weak speak of fairness. The strong speak of leverage. You start to notice patterns. People obey confidence, not truth. They follow the appearance of strength, not its reality. You watch as the loudest, the calmest, or the most mysterious command attention. Not because they deserve it, but because they understand framing. You begin to study the game. The small shifts in tone that bend a conversation. The pauses that make people chase your approval. The words that plant obedience disguised as choice. And slowly, your hunger turns into method. You stop reacting. You start observing. You stop asking why they have power and start asking how. Then you discover the first truth of psychological war. Power is not a position. It's an atmosphere. When you walk into a room, your silence speaks before your mouth does. Your posture dictates who talks first. Your lack of need creates gravity, and that gravity bends weaker minds. Most never understand this. They chase validation, believing it will bring them peace. But power doesn't come from being loved. It comes from being feared just enough to be respected. You must become unreactive, still, unbothered, unmoved. Every emotion they provoke is a leash they can pull. Every outburst, every defense, every explanation, a confession of weakness. Learn to observe without revealing, respond without explaining, and when necessary, command without words. Because the first law of psychological war is simple. Control yourself completely before attempting to control anything else. No empire is won by a man who can't command his own silence. No throne is built on a heart that trembles. Your mind must become a weapon, cold, clear, efficient. Every thought sharpened, every impulse restrained. That's how you ascend from the powerless to the player. Not by fighting harder, but by feeling less. And once you master this restraint, people will begin to sense it. They won't know why they hesitate before speaking to you. They won't understand why your approval feels like oxygen. They'll just know that something in you is different. Stillness mistaken for mystery. Detachment mistaken for depth. That's not an illusion. It's architecture. You're building an aura. And in this war, perception is power. So remember this. Every moment you control your reaction, you rewrite the hierarchy. Every silence you hold, you bend the world a little closer to your will. You have not yet conquered them. But for the first time, you're no longer conquered by yourself. Hunger is only the beginning. What comes next is the mask. Every empire is built on performance. Every ruler wears a mask. And every mask tells a lie that feels like the truth. You learn this early. The world doesn't reward authenticity. It rewards effectiveness. Those who speak their hearts are devoured. Those who play their roles are obeyed. Control is not about truth. It's about presentation. Power doesn't demand honesty. It demands precision. And so, you begin crafting the version of yourself that can walk through fire without showing smoke. The mask becomes your armor. When you wear it, you decide what the world sees and what it never will. You decide when to smile, when to stay silent, when to look away. Every gesture becomes a weapon, every pause a calculation. You understand that people don't follow reality, they follow stories. The story of authority, the story of mystery, the story of someone who seems untouchable. And if you wear that story long enough, they will kneel before the image, not the man. The weak think the mask is deception, but the strong know it is discipline. You don't lie for pleasure, you lie for control. You don't hide to escape, you hide to manipulate the frame. Because power exists only where perception allows it. If they believe you are in control, you are. If they doubt it, you've already lost. So you refine the performance. You learn how to mirror emotion without feeling it. How to appear calm when chaos surrounds you. How to sound kind when your mind is calculating every angle. You become two beings, the one that acts and the one that watches. The observer is the strategist. The actor is the weapon. Most will never notice the split. They'll call you confident, composed, even charming. But inside, you're detached, a tactician behind glass, studying every reaction. You begin to realize something darker. Emotion is currency, and the one who spends less rules more. Others waste energy trying to be understood. You conserve energy to understand them. They reveal their fears in every sentence, their needs in every silence. And you take note, quietly, patiently, because the second law of psychological war is this. Never reveal the depth of your intent. The moment they can read you, they can predict you. The moment they can predict you, they can control you. Your mask must evolve. You adapt to every environment, corporate, social, personal, like a chameleon with purpose. Each setting demands a different face. Confidence here, obedience there, always controlled, always rehearsed. This is not hypocrisy, it's warfare. Every conversation is terrain. Every human is a battlefield, and every word is a move. You're not trying to be liked anymore. You're trying to be believed. And belief is the root of all obedience. Soon, you start seeing how easily people surrender to symbols. A tone of voice becomes law. An expensive suit becomes respect. A single word, spoken with certainty, becomes truth. They think they're following reason, but they're following confidence, the illusion you wear like a crown. That is why the most dangerous power is not control over others' actions, but over their perception of reality. When they start doubting their judgment, when they begin measuring their worth through your reaction, you have already won. The mask then is not a disguise. It's your throne. It allows you to operate unseen, untouchable. But remember, every mask feeds on its creator. The danger of pretending too long is forgetting what you used to be. The line between performance and identity blurs until you no longer know which is the mask and which is the man. That's the paradox of control. To rule others, you must lose a part of yourself. To project perfection, you must hide your humanity. And when the mask begins to crack, when emotion leaks through the armor, that's when your enemies will strike. Not because they see weakness, but because they see you. So maintain the mask. Strengthen it with silence. Polish it with composure. Let them believe they know you, while you study every corner of their minds. The war for perception never ends. And the one who wears the mask the longest writes the rules for everyone else. Power does not shout, it whispers. And the one who learns to command silence commands everything. Most people are slaves to noise. They speak to fill the void, to feel alive, to prove their worth through sound. They confuse volume with influence, emotion with truth. They talk not to express, but to escape themselves. But the strategist understands that silence is not absence. It is architecture. Every pause, every unspoken word, every delayed response reshapes the balance of power. In a world addicted to reaction, the one who stays still becomes the mirror. People project themselves into your quiet. Their fear, their insecurity, their desperation for validation. It all spills into the void you hold open. You don't fight them. You let them expose themselves. Silence is your scalpel. It cuts through illusion without a single strike. It forces others to reveal what they meant to hide. The guilty fill silence with excuses. The weak fill it with apologies. The insecure fill it with noise. When you say nothing, you make them question everything. Control begins there, in restraint. Because every reaction is a confession. Every emotional outburst tells them what to use against you. The moment you explain yourself, you surrender authority. So you learn to hold silence like a blade. To wait longer than comfort allows. To master the tension others fear. That's when they start bending. Not because you demanded obedience, but because your stillness feels heavier than their speech. You begin to see that most conversations are traps, subtle invitations to give yourself away. When someone provokes you, what they truly want is your reaction. When they insult you, what they crave is proof that you're wounded. When they question you, they're not seeking answers, they're testing your frame. But when you remain calm, when your eyes hold steady and your voice never rises, their strategy collapses. You've denied them control. The third law of psychological war is simple. He who reacts last rules first. Because silence is not passive, it's psychological gravity. It pulls words, emotions, and intentions into your orbit. The longer you wait, the more desperate others become to fill the void you've created. And in their desperation, they expose hierarchy. Watch how people crumble when faced with quiet. They laugh too loudly. They explain too much. They rush to prove they're still relevant. Their fear of being misunderstood is their leash. But silence is not just defense. It's construction. You can build entire realities with it. A leader's pause can command a room more than a general's shout. A slow, deliberate breath before speaking can make an entire crowd hold theirs. You begin to understand silence is rhythm. It gives weight to words. Without it, even the truth sounds desperate. And when you finally speak, when your voice breaks that calculated stillness, every word becomes law. This is why the wise speak rarely and only with intent. Every sentence costs energy. Every word spent unnecessarily weakens your presence. But every silence held deepens it. Soon, you no longer fear pauses. You weaponize them. You let others hang in discomfort, unsure if they've impressed you, offended you, or been ignored. That uncertainty becomes your control. To master silence is to master fear, not by removing it, but by transferring it. You make them fear what you might say, what you might do, or what your silence might mean. They will build 1,000 stories in their mind to fill the space you left blank. And each story will make you larger than life. This is how legends are created, not by speaking, but by being unavailable. The less accessible you are, the more power they project onto you. So hold your silence like a throne. Let them beg for your words and tremble when they come. A single phrase from a silent man is worth more than the endless noise of a desperate one. Silence is not emptiness. It is controlled, distilled to its purest form. Emotion is the most expensive currency in war, and the poorest men are those who spend it carelessly. Every human interaction is a trade. Attention, validation, affection, anger, all forms of currency. The one who controls his emotions controls the market. The one who doesn't becomes merchandise. You begin to see it everywhere. the desperation to be seen, to be heard, to feel important. People pay for recognition with outrage. They buy connections with vulnerability. They sell their dignity for comfort. But you start to withdraw. You start saving your emotions the way a general saves ammunition. You learn that to react is to spend. And every time you spend, someone else profits. That's when you understand the fourth law of psychological war. Emotion is leverage. Spend it with precision. A strategist does not waste energy on every provocation. He does not show rage, even when provoked. He does not show excitement, even when victorious. Because the moment you display emotion, you give your enemy the blueprint to control you. If they can predict what angers you, they can trap you. If they can see what flatters you, they can manipulate you. If they can sense what frightens you, they can destroy you. So you start to conserve, to detach, to feel without displaying, to observe without indulging. It's not that you stop having emotions. It's that you stop spending them recklessly. You become emotionally disciplined. You allow others to rage, to cry, to beg, while you remain composed. Not because you're heartless, but because you've learned that calmness is the highest form of dominance. They call it coldness. They call it arrogance. But deep down, they fear it. Because control over emotion looks like freedom, and freedom terrifies those still ruled by impulse. You notice how others give themselves away with every flicker of expression. A nervous laugh, a clenched jaw, a flash of pride, a trembling tone, each one a signal, a confession of weakness wrapped in humanity. But your face becomes a wall. Your tone is a scalpel. Your calmness is a weapon sharper than rage. The battlefield shifts in your favor. While they waste energy trying to provoke you, you're already observing their tactics. While they're reacting, you're calculating. And when the time comes, you strike, not with fury, but with precision. Because true emotion, when controlled, is not weakness. It's fuel. Pain becomes clarity. Fear becomes awareness. Every time you make a choice, ask yourself, did I decide or was I designed to? That's how the unseen rule the world. Comment below. Are you the player or the architect?